Welcome back to all the wild men and wild women and Mission 43 podcast listeners. This episode, we're getting real about transition with real members and real Idahoans.
Definitely Davin and Gia Strang, incredible. We're going to talk about purpose and finding that after the military, how they've been so successful in raising kids as dual military, and now what life is like as retirees here in Idaho.
Yeah, they are unique in that they fully committed to life after the military, and it's pretty impressive.
Yep. So hit subscribe. Let's get started and hear from Davin and Gia Strang.
Join us in learning about the stories and the people who inspire us. This is the Mission 43 podcast. I'm Dan Nelson.
And I'm Brian Madden. Idaho is our home. The military is what we did.
All right, we are here highlighting two amazing Mission 43 members, specifically Gia Strang and Davin Strang, a military couple. You guys have an incredible story, and you've been essential members of Mission 43 in the past year. Like, it's been pretty, you went full immersion pretty quick when you got here.
Yeah, I think, I think being military members, it's when you transition, you move from place to place, kind of when you come to a new place, you really kind of have to get out there and do it for yourself because nobody's going to do it for you. So you kind of have to get out there and, figure out where you want to be and how you want to engage. And
well, you guys have definitely figured that out.
Yeah.
I don't know for what your take on it is, but I think every single Mission 43, especially volunteer event, you guys have been a part of. But before we get into that, take us back and give everyone a little picture, who you are as people. Where are you from, Davin?
I'm from Detroit, Michigan. My dad got transferred in the 70s, 78, 79 to Cleveland, and I went to high school in Cleveland.
You probably have to get a little closer to the mic, just so you know.
I'm going to have to get a little closer. But yeah, honestly, if I'll jump the story backwards a little bit. When Gia and I retired and decided where we were going to go, we discovered that neither of us had ever lived anywhere longer than we lived in San Diego, which was my last duty station.
Even growing up in the Detroit area?
Even growing up, neither of us had 8 years was the longest we'd ever lived anywhere.
Really?
She was all over the United States. I was all over the United States, or at least all over the Midwest until we joined the service, and have lived all over the world.
Did you both join out of high school?
yes,
Sort
I
of.
did. He did.
Yeah. What did you do? What did you?
I delayed enlistment in 87, joined straight in because I wanted out of Indiana.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to grow up in Cornfield, Indiana, and I was looking for my way out, and my family couldn't afford college, and so I was like, I'm gonna join the military, see the world.
What did you
do fun shit. So
What was that? What did you do in the military?
I signed up as an electronic systems or communication systems maintenance technician. So I worked on basically SATCOM terminals.
In the Air Force?
In the Air Force.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was my job. Big SATCOM terminal as well. Actually, I did some mobile units too on the smaller, more mobile transportable systems that deployed as well. So
Yeah. And active duty?
active duty, 10 and a half years, and another six and a half as an active reservist.
And so, Davin, what did you do, and when did you join?
I joined immediately out of high school as well. I was an Air Force ROTC cadet.
Oh, really?
Had a scholarship to go to the University of Cincinnati, and I was not ready for college yet. So
We share
messed
that in common.
around, upset my cadet colonel, upset my parents, upset the apple cart, decided to work my way, put myself through college. Working, found a number of jobs that were a lot of fun and not real conducive to studies. And so that was 87. I graduated high school, and in 92, obviously there were some things going on in the world and opportunities to continue to pay my way through college as a struggling bartender.
Oh, so bartender? I was thinking drug dealer, but you're just saying bartender bouncer type?
Bartender bouncer, as a matter of fact.
Different drug.
Good.
So joined the Navy and was able, I think it was fortunate. Joining late had some negatives, but a lot of really positive things in that your interaction with your recruiter was, I think, a little bit different, and your ability to research and figure things out was a little bit different. And I think I wanted to do something a little bit special.
What'd you get involved in the Navy?
I was a salvage diver right out. They called it a push button or a dive fair program. So I passed the physical and passed the initial PT test, and the idea was if I could pass through school, that I would sort of fast track. So I was in the Navy for 8 months, and I was at a command as a Navy diver, and I've been a diver ever since.
What's a salvage diver actually do?
The idea came primarily out
Always
of
different in the military. The idea.
Well, it's the fact of the matter is we all have a combat mission, and the idea for salvage diving came out of Pearl Harbor primarily. We really grew. Obviously, there was a lot of work after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. There's a lot of ships that needed to be salvaged. A lot got put back into the fight. But when we don't have that sort of thing going on, you find other avenues. One of the greatest things from my perspective, especially as a junior sailor, a junior military personnel, is being in the water. You were the only one hands-on that actually saw what the problem was. So very junior people got a great deal of input. And from a very senior level, there's a huge motivation to keep ships out of dry dock. Dry dock's massively expensive.
Right.
So what would take a dry dock and a dry dock crew and a great deal of time to do repairs on ships, if you can put 4 or 5 guys in the water with a support crew on the surface and get it done without a dry dock and without that time commitment, the higher-ups are highly motivated to entertain knuckleheads' ideas.
Dude, that's crazy. And like, it's universal throughout the military of how much responsibility is pushed down to the lowest level. Like, I think of myself as an 18, 19-year-old and how ridiculously stupid I was, and then like totally unable to assess risk and everything. And there's 18, 19-year-olds, like 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds even, whatever, like down there underneath the ship making decisions on what to do with this multi-million-dollar piece of government equipment.
Yeah, I'm going to dovetail on that real quick. A fun story for me is because you have no idea. You're in and you just go to work, and it's cool because I get to go swimming every day, and people are paying me, and the paychecks come in on a regular
I heard divers
basis.
don't swim. I heard you guys walk.
Depends on what gear you're wearing.
Okay.
But yeah, absolutely. Don't swim in the Michael Phelps idea of swimming.
Gotcha.
But I'd gotten qualified. A number of reasons I got qualified because I didn't know any better. I had to get radiation RadCon qualified to dive underneath what they call hot ships or hot submarines.
That sounds terrible.
It's not as bad as it might sound, but one of the things that you were doing, one of the big jobs, was to dry dock a submarine.
Yeah.
There's blocks underneath, and you swim and make sure that they're in place, and then very slowly they bring the submarine up out of the water. And I had been doing that, and it was no problem, and I was quick, and I thought I was not that big a deal. And then in 94, a submarine in Pearl Harbor rolled, and that is a few degrees, 15, 12 degrees, but either way, it wasn't properly dry docked. And obviously the Navy, the higher ups, everyone else had a fit, and there was huge money. And it occurred to me that for the last 2 years, I'd been in scuba just sticking my head up out of the water going, sure, good to go, set it down. I'm 23 years old, 24 years old, and I'm the only one with eyes on. And to your point that, yeah, there's junior people, young people with tremendous responsibility all throughout the military.
So how does someone in Air Force Communications get connected to a Navy salvage diver? How did you guys end up meeting?
There's a couple of good stories associated with that. I was working in Norfolk, Virginia at Joint Forces Command. I was their UHF satellite frequency manager. And there were a couple of stories associated with that. A lot of the units had to come through me for training to get satellite frequencies for training missions that they were trying to do stateside. And at the time, we had satellites dropping out of the sky like nobody's business. So the resources were super limited. And but I mean, training still had to happen. People still had to be able to utilize this equipment and know how to work it. So when they were in situations when they needed it, they could utilize it.
I just realized, I've known you for a year, and I never realized that you were the person that were always submitting
Satellite
our stuff
access
to.
requests
Yes, like we
too.
wanted a training window when we need this
Yep.
sat window for these particular channels.
Yep.
If it was
You
East
are the
Coast
person.
UHF from
Yep.
2004 through 2006 almost.
Yeah, somewhere there. Yeah.
So
Thereabouts.
Okay, sorry. So I cut you off because
that's all
you're
right.
the gatekeeper. That was the bane of my existence for a while. Anyway,
I'm
no
the
big
bane
deal.
I was the bane of everybody's existence.
So how did he become the bane of your existence then, or when? Like, what year was that?
That was 2004.
Yep.
Yeah, and his unit was struggling to get satellite access time because his comm guy was not good.
I had
Don't place blame. It's
I had
definitely the gatekeeper's
Dude.
fault.
I made chief in 2003 and came back from a deployment. And normally in the Navy, they'll take that post-deployment chief and make you the training officer, or at least the training LCPO. So it was my first evolution. It was a certification exercise for one of our other pre-deploying units, and I had to have satellite time. It was my first time in the Navy being in charge of people that weren't divers. So I had people working for me with skill sets that I didn't have. So I had a great deal of trust in an ET1 who was coming to me with excuses over and over and over again. And at some point I said, Joint Forces Command, Tech Sergeant Fullerton, and there's these difficulties, and he's not able to be successful. And I realized that I had this shiny new anchor on my collar, and maybe you give me that phone number and I'll square things away.
I'm guessing Tech Sergeant Fullerton was you.
That was me.
Oh.
That was me.
So that's
Yeah.
how you guys met, when he's trying to get something from you?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And that never changed
Yeah, well-
throughout a relationship.
True.
How was being dual military? I think one thing, we have a lot of friends who are dual military. That's hard. And then being dual military in two different branches of service. What's the challenges there?
Well, I think for us, very quickly we realized, well, I think when we understood that this relationship was going to be
Long term.
a long-term relationship, that we had some decisions to make, because we got pregnant very quickly. I got pregnant with twins, and
Starting off strong.
starting off strong. Yeah, and having to make those decisions. I was a reservist. I was an active reservist at the time, so it just made sense that I would probably transition out and stay home to raise our kids while Davin continued on with his career. And
Did you ever deploy when you had children?
I never deployed. I ended up having to, because I actually belonged to a reserve unit in Oklahoma City. It was a small unit that was associated with the FAA. We did flight inspection for ground-based nav aids, and I still had to do my reserve time back in Oklahoma City. So even though I was working active duty in Virginia,
yeah.
I would have to transition back to Oklahoma City to do my 2 weeks and all my weekends at one time.
It's the joy of the Guard Reserve system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes total sense.
Yeah. So, and pregnant with twins at the time too. I think I did that once pregnant, and then I had the twins, and I did one of those the next year to fulfill my requirements. And at that point, we realized we just can't do this with small babies, and it was tough on me. I got really sick while I was there, and so we decided at that point that I was going to transition out, and we would follow his career, and that was tough. That was tough for me as
Now military spouse.
yes,
Yeah.
as an active duty member transitioning to becoming a spouse, and I talk about it all the time. It pissed me off to be identified by my husband's social security number. And,
Well, you're not alone. I know a particular wife, mine, that feels the same way.
Yeah, it's almost like we're an appendage to our husbands, and especially after having been the active duty member, making that transition was kind of hard. And but I think it was the right decision for our family, obviously. But
It's a sacrifice on your part.
it is, and I struggled, and I mean I still struggle actually, because I loved my time in the military. I loved traveling all over the world and seeing and doing things that most people never have the opportunity to do. I loved having a mission. I loved having, knowing that what I was doing was making a difference, that it was important. And then I transitioned, and I always like to say this, from Tech Sergeant Fullerton to playgroup captain, and it was not a promotion.
Do you think people are caught off guard that you served in the military too? Is there a perception that it's just him that was in?
Yeah,
Happy Veterans Day, Davin.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Most people assume that I am not the veteran and that I am the spouse of the veteran. And I get that. But yeah, that's definitely a hard transition to make, having been active duty with your own career, very active career, to becoming the spouse and supporting him now, gallivanting all over the world while I'm staying home, changing crap diapers. And, I'm lucky if I brush my teeth that day. And, and here he is off in Hawaii and Korea. And I'm like, that used to be me.
Work, honey.
We always say, like, being in the military is the easy job. It's the fun job.
Absolutely.
It's the good time.
Yeah.
Like, the person who's back at home has it the hardest by far. So
yeah, definitely sending your spouse off. Well, in some situations, sending them off to dangerous situations, being that person at home. So not only are you trying to raise your kids and maintain the household and, pay the bills and make sure everything goes where that's supposed to go, doctor's appointments, whatever. But then you're also worried about your spouse, that they're safe. But
do you have any regrets? Would you have done it differently?
I don't know that I would have done it differently, just because I think it was important for us to be there, for me to be there for our kids, knowing that he wasn't going to be able to do that all the time with his job. It was important for me that the kids had a stable parent home and so that we weren't paying someone else to raise our kids.
I'm just curious, but at that point, when you're making that decision, like, was it even a discussion where, like, hey,
Absolutely.
Davin, you stay at home and I continue with my Air Force career?
I think one of the very lucky things that happened as far as realizing, because oftentimes, as far as her people not realizing that she served as well, that there were an oddity, that people learn to expect things. And if most of the folks that you meet, the guy was in the military and the wife was not, or some such, that it's out of the ordinary. But another thing that happened for us that was also, I think, out of the ordinary because she was a reservist is the twins were 5 months old when she had to go for almost 2 months to make up time. And I was home alone with twins, and it was very, very clear. As a matter of fact, there was a whole list of things that I was supposed to be getting done. And I made it about a day and a half, and I'm amazed. One of my, I was stationed, obviously Spec Ops, or stationed with Spec Ops commands for most of my career. I have the most fun with Navy SEALs, who will talk about Hell Week, and we didn't sleep for 5 days. I am adamant. I want to put it on the record. My wife didn't sleep for 9 months.
Oh.
Yeah, breastfeeding twins, that's like a combat sport. I would not recommend it.
The last 3 months of the pregnancy and our twins were healthy, 7-pound babies, both of them were.
Yeah, 6 pounds 9 ounces and 6 pounds 7 ounces.
Who's counting?
15 pounds a baby at one time.
So that was like me, by the way, when I was born by myself. So
it's impressive. We gotta learn more of the secrets from you two, because you've done clearly a fantastic job of going from dual military to transitioning to being a spouse and raising two incredible kids twins are 15 now.
Twins are 15, and then our little one is 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 going on.
What are
30.
some of the secrets to your success?
It's funny because people do ask those questions, and there's so. I think we laugh about whether you had kids when you were really young or if you had them when you were really old. And we have opportunities and funding, and you read, and everybody's got a different opinion. So love them and be consistent, and for God's sakes, never cross each other. The whole play mommy against daddy is intolerable.
That's
in
big
our
in
house.
our home.
Yeah. Don't play one against the other. The kids know as soon as they do that, your argument is done. You will no longer get whatever it is you're asking for when you try to play that. But
yeah, love them and be consistent.
Yeah, and I think
that's all I know.
I don't know. As parents too, I think I think that being there for each other too, and making sure that you tell the other person. Like Davin has always been really, really good about supporting me being at home, and He is really good at giving me the support that I need and telling me, you do amazing shit. You know, you are doing such a hard job, and I'm so proud of you. And what you're doing is important, and you impress me. And you know, I think that acknowledgement that is crucial for the people who are home doing the hard stuff at home. But you know, now that we're here, kind of those roles have reversed a little bit since he's now retired and I have gone back to school.
Yep.
So he's the one that is spending the majority of the time at home. And
I learned how and why you hate Costco so much.
Yes, universally, I think
Truth.
anyone that's ever had to shop there on a weekend especially.
oh my God, Saturday, I would rather gouge my eye out with a spork than
Yes.
Costco on a Saturday.
Well, so how did you guys get here? Like, how did you choose Idaho? Because neither one of you are connected to Boise, let alone Idaho. So if they coming up on retirement and you guys start looking because you have all three of your kids.
Right. I think the bigger things, especially for me, is I retired in March of 16. Really didn't have much of a clue what was going on. I was mad at a couple things. I talk about retirement being a 12-step program, that you're in denial that it's coming, and then you accept, and you're angry, and you probably owe some apologies to some people. But there was far too many of the standard 12-step program that went through for me. I got involved with some great groups. Lucas Group was a tremendous opportunity as far as trying to help JOs and senior enlisted get find jobs and all the training and such.
Were you looking for a job?
Absolutely. I went to a ruins seminar, all training on how to do that. And in fact, I got a job with a software startup. But really not knowing what was going on, I was fortunate as heck to take advantage of my GI Bill. And I went to grad school, and we kind of decided that it would be best to hit the transition between grade school and junior high school for the kids to try to make a decision.
There were a lot of factors that I think went into us ending up where we are. Davin was coming up on retirement. It was 2015, and we lost a good friend of ours to suicide who had it was like a 30-year career in the Navy, had been forced to retire, and he really, really struggled finding his way after getting out of the military. And, you know, we saw him kind of bounce around from job to job and struggled with alcoholism and then committed suicide in 2015. And I think that was really a big wake-up call. I mean, for both of us, but especially for me in, and understanding where Davin was with his transition, that he was not exactly happy, and this whole idea of moving into something completely different, because I think that we create so much of our identity is based upon the jobs that we do in the military.
Yeah. Yes.
And, finding something like that outside of the military is very hard to do.
Yep.
You lose not only a community that you've invested so heavily into, but you lose that purpose. And for us, we had lots of hard conversations about purpose, about how important purpose is in transitioning out of the military, that it doesn't matter what you do, you got to find something that brings meaning to the path that you're traveling.
And you had those conversations as a couple?
We
Were
did.
your kids involved? Like
We
I
did.
mean, not every couple, I think, has those conversations, and I think it's unique possibly to military couples, or not all of them certainly, but successful ones.
Well, I think first off, any kind of transition. We've all got parents that may be coming to their final retirement. And it's just brutal. It's tough to try to figure out. I had a lot of trouble with sleep. I still, I don't know. I think I struggle with sleep. I wish I slept more. But there's actually an adaptive athlete veteran that does some podcasting and does some, I don't know. He's a personality online named Derek Weeda. And Derek hit the right time at the right everything for me and put out the, just advice too. And I think he's really great. I think he's great because he says dumb shit without thinking about it, and then comes back the next week and says, you know what, that was dumb, and this is why, and this is what I really meant. And I respect that. I've never met the guy.
You just described my relationship with my wife and how I interact with her. Every day I'm like, what I said yesterday, that was my bad.
Right. When he came out and said, got to get sleep, got to exercise, got to have purpose, and whatever you're, if you like scotch or you like beer, or if you're in a legal state and you like to partake within reason and under control and, responsibly. And his advice for sleep got me sleeping probably for the first time.
What's that advice?
His advice was a bunch of Tylenol PM and melatonin.
Okay, weird.
I mean,
and I've changed the prescription, but the point what came through from Derek to me is whatever works for you, and he acknowledged that he's not a doctor, but doctor, not doctor, whatever, you gotta sleep.
Yeah.
And as these things are occurring to me, my very good friend ended his life. And he wasn't sleeping, and he was drinking, and he was purposeless, and you couldn't figure out. And you see these things, they're too easy to recognize after the fact, and very, very difficult to recognize or provide help during.
You guys had this conversation about purpose. How did Idaho fit into that? Because neither of you are from here. Mm-hmm. How did you guys head down this road and show up in this state?
Well, I think that we had talked about several different places, that was kind of on the short list. We knew that we wanted out of California. We couldn't afford to live there, retired comfortably. And so we were kind of looking for something with good people, better cost of living. And we had considered, San Antonio was one of the places that we had considered. I had been stationed there during my career, and I loved it when I was there, but that was 20 plus years ago.
Right.
And I went back this summer.
It's blown up.
Yeah. It was so, it had changed so much that I was like, oh, nope. I don't want to do this. We're coming out of San Diego, which, there's a lot of good about San Diego. I can't knock it, but it's just super expensive and, not, politically not where we wanted to be at the time. Right. So we were kind of looking at ulterior, alternate options. And Davin comes up to me one day and says, what do you think about Idaho? And I'm like, I don't even know what to think about. I haven't thought about Idaho. Why? It was so absurd to me when he brought it up. I was like, because we had no ties.
Well, how did you find it?
Well, and she's normally makes the joke that I found Idaho with Google, but I had a list, and to make it as simple as possible, I wanted the smallest town possible with real stuff. I wanted
amenities.
Real sports. I wanted theater. I wanted museums.
School was a big one for me.
Certainly school. I loved the idea of being able to ride my bike around. And we were lucky enough when Gia got accepted to BSU to find a place that she could ride her bike to school.
Yeah.
And then very, very quickly, I found that I could ride my bike to my chiropractor, my dentist, my acupuncturist, everybody. I'm
Capitol
walking
building,
and riding my bike.
Boba, because the kids love boba.
Yep.
There's a lot of interesting.
Amazing. Yeah. And then
so did you come out and visit first and saw it, and then went back and thought about it?
We took the summer off really in 18. And this was another crazy idea.
It was a good summer.
Didn't know what we're going to do, where we're going to land. And I had this dream that we were going to come up over the rise, and there was going to be this sunrise, and there was going to be this piece of land, and that led to
Oregon Trail style.
Right. Yeah. That led to getting a fifth wheel toy hauler and a truck.
We had talked about actually moving the family into the fifth wheel and living for a year, traveling around, doing all the national parks, and homeschooling the kids. And we realized very quickly that was a bit of a pipe dream with a family of 5 and a big dog, and especially the kids. The kids were getting to a point where they were at an age where they They just
They
wanted
needed
to.
the socialization.
They needed the socialization. They needed to have some roots somewhere. And so, yeah, that summer, the kids did their last summer camp in San Diego, and Davin and I came out to Boise and spent a week, the end of June, beginning of July. We had already sold our house in San Diego, but we hadn't decided where we were going to go yet. So we were living in our fifth wheel.
Mm-hmm.
We were living in our fifth wheel.
Awesome.
Yeah. Actually, it was kind of awesome for a time.
Yeah.
But we came out to Boise and we spent a week here and we kind of fell in love with it. It's a little big city.
Yep.
And the people were so friendly. You know, like the ladies at the grocery store are kind and, talk and, get to know you. And, traffic. People are, we had a guy who wanted to get in the lane in front of us, and he's like waving his hand, roll down his window. Do you mind if we get in front of you? That would never happen
Just like
in
Southern California.
Oh,
Yeah. It's like Southern
Very little
California.
honking.
No.
Yep.
Usually some hand gestures.
Yeah.
So no, it was just, it just felt like this was the right place for us. It just felt right.
Well, there were two things, because we were staying at the Riverside
RV
place
resorts.
over by the ball field, and I was at Fred Meyer's right near there, and there was a bar in the grocery store. There was like taps, and you could just order a pint in the grocery store. And then we were walking out of the grocery store, and I was like, man, there's something strange. There's I can't put my finger on it. Something. And there was this moment in the middle of the grocery store parking lot. I think it was that Fred Meyer's, and I was like, Gia, everybody puts their cart away.
Sometimes
This
it's
is
the
the most
little things,
and
right?
It's indicative of the whole show.
Yeah.
It's like there's not dozens of carts and trash and diapers in all the little landscape islands all around the parking lot.
Yeah.
People, I don't know.
People care about their community here. It's not everyone for themselves.
Yeah.
It's a community. People care about each other. They care about, the city.
Mm-hmm.
So there was just, we saw so much good here. And we kind of liked the idea of our kids growing up somewhere that had kind of the values that we were, that we felt were important, that they grew up knowing. So I think that's really what brought us here, that there was just so much good. There's so much good.
Did you consider, as like both of you being veterans and like a military family, did that factor in? Like, did you see Idaho as a place specifically for veterans to thrive, or was that kind of like on the back burner to?
I don't think so. I mean, we did visit the VA when we were here, and the VA actually, surprisingly, is not so bad here.
Boise VA is
pretty
good.
darn
Yeah,
good.
it's pretty good. And so we felt that was kind of a positive sign.
I actually got some negative feedback from friends, especially Navy friends. They're very specific, lots of Florida and lots of, is your retirement taxed and things of that nature.
Yeah.
That they're like, they're going to, and we're just really, really fortunate that G and I haven't made any giant mistakes. And the money situation's not as tight as. So I didn't give that a lot of thought.
You would after quality of life.
Yeah, absolutely. And the but I'm just saying that the feedback I got from a lot of folks was very, very specifically like, what are my taxes going to be and what's this? So we got a little bit of negative feedback about Idaho, and then but then visiting, and we just really, really liked it. And then it's been getting better from somebody from the Midwest who all of my young life was growing up with what we called lake effect weather or wind chill factors. And they talk about wind chill factors here, but maybe up in the mountains, it's not the same animal.
Yeah.
Were you looking to be part of a veterans group? Because now you are pretty active in Mission 43.
Well, I don't think that we were necessarily, we weren't necessarily picking Boise because, at the time we didn't know anything about Mission 43. We found you guys after we had already been here a little bit, probably, 4 or 5 months. And I don't even remember. Oh, it was through out at the Warhawk doing the Murph. is how
That was the first time I met him. Yeah.
Yeah, how Davin kind of came home and said, yeah, I met this really cool group of people and we should check it out. And so then we kind of started looking you guys up on Facebook and then started participating in events. And I think that's always kind of, and I think as military members, I mean, it's kind of ingrained into the military members that you do your part outside of your mission as well. You know, you volunteer. I mean, it's part of your promotion, but I think people who are really successful at that do it because they love doing it, and they carry that on outside of the military as well. And I think that was a big thing for us was being involved in our community and learning about our community by getting out there and meeting people. You know, where can we fill holes that you know that need to be filled? You know, how can we do that? Where are we going to make the most difference?
What's been some of your favorite things you've done with us?
Well, we love CAF. CAF has a soft spot in our heart.
Challenge Athletes Foundation.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Because we volunteered for CAF in San Diego, and we loved it there. And then we've done several events here, and it's kind of a soft spot for us. And what's
been a good moment with CAF? What's your most memorable?
I love seeing the kids' faces.
Oh my goodness.
I love seeing the kids like live their best life. They're out there killing it and smiling
without
and happy.
an ounce of sympathy for themselves.
No.
Well,
And specifically with CAF mission, we always volunteer. They do a ton of camps, like para-tri camps, and Mission 43 and the engagement side Dan leads up is always coming out there to volunteer. So that's the connection what you guys are jumping in on.
Because it's mutually beneficial for people
Absolutely.
like us as veterans to be, useful in some way to a lot of these like truly
I found
amazing
it to
Purpose.
be that I'm super useful with, and it's funny with the CAF events. In the Navy, like you said, we walk on the bottom. You wear this giant thing. Everybody's seen the Men of Honor movie. What you're told is there's two tenders with the diver, and obviously the diver has heavy boots on and this thing and can't see really well, and you get screamed at and screamed at and screamed at. If they go down, you damn well better be under them. You do not let the diver fall. And now years later, and I haven't tended on a dive in a very long time, and I came to the CAF event where they went to the skate park. And I showed up, and I have no real idea what's going to be going on, and Gia's going to have to help me here because I'm horrible with names. But they gave me this little girl, and they bring her up, and she's in her wheelchair, and the instruction was, she has brittle bone disease, don't let her fall.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, sweet, this is my job.
And this is not any skate park.
No.
It
Yeah,
is
road skate park here.
Yeah,
It's
No,
like
I did.
It's no joke.
games.
Yeah.
I had to dive under her on one of them because she went up a ramp and was
She was
turning.
fearless.
She was fantastic.
Fearless and awesome.
And to the point of volunteering and why we do these things.
Is
That was one of the most
is this filling some of that
things.
purpose you were talking
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And it's inspirational. And you take lessons from these people. We all have trials and tribulations and things that we think are really hard and things that make us depressed. And how am I going to, pay the rent or whatever it is that you're doing? And then you see people showing you how to meet challenges and excel. It's very, very, it's selfish and beneficial for me.
And Gia, I saw you swim with Scotty Smiley.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
Scotty's blind, by the way, for the listeners.
It was so much fun. And thank you, by the way, for giving me that opportunity that day. I was a competitive swimmer as a kid and have continued to swim. It's kind of my physical activity of choice. And so being able to swim with Scotty that day, there was a little bit of a learning curve for me in how to guide him, so that he got the best experience as well. Right out of the gate, I led him straight into some brambles along the side of Quinn's Pond, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, Scotty. I promise I'll get better at this, and we did. We got much better. And no blood was drawn, so that's positive. But Scotty, to be able to, for him, trusting me, someone he's never met, he has no idea what my experience level is, trusting me to guide him, knowing that he,
For an open water swim.
An open water swim,
Yeah.
it's dangerous, and him trusting, putting that trust in me was was I felt very honored to be able to swim with him that day. And it was great. It was a great swim. It was super fun. And yeah, I hope I get the chance to do it again. So let Scotty know.
It was inspirational watching from the outside. That was incredible to see.
Well, because you swim with him all the time. You're like, yes, somebody else can swim with him. Somebody else can get out there too.
It's weird. That's what Scotty told me. He was just so excited to swim with somebody other than Madden. It was pretty incredible. Hey, we hope that people, if you're listening to this, watching this, like, subscribe to our YouTube channels, Mission 43, to hear more of these inspirational stories. But honestly, the reason why I wanted you guys to come here, like, I consider you friends, but I wanted to highlight how, honestly, you're killing this transition thing. Like, especially, like, as parents, because, you know, as spouses, as a couple, like, there's no reason you don't have to come to any of our events, like our Mission 43 events or Aaron Butler Memorial Foundation events, but you guys do all the time, and you become really meaningful pieces of these organizations. But, like, you have hobbies. Like, what is your secret sauce? Like, you build stuff. You started, like, a small LLC and built, now it's an Airbnb at your house or outbuilding. You are an artist. Like, and by the way, your parents, really involved parents. Like, what is it that gets giving you this purpose? Because a lot of us struggle with transition, and you guys, as a family, as a couple, seem to be just rocking.
For me, I think it's just about finding something that you want to do, something that you're passionate about. So for me, it was going back to school, and you know, I had a degree from the Air Force in electronics, but when my kids got to an age where I could venture back into the workforce, it wasn't something that I wanted to go back into. And it had been so long at that point that I wasn't, you know, my training was no longer relevant. You know, technology surpassed, you know, had gone well past where my training.
Typewriters, that's what you're saying. I'm just kidding.
Teletypes. Actually, teletypes was one of the things. But so for me, it was about finding something that I was passionate about. I had always been a creative person, and going back to school to get my bachelor's, because as a mom, kind of venturing back into the workplace was a hard transition because I didn't have a bachelor's degree. I had an associate's degree.
Right.
And, you know, most people didn't want to hire for whatever I was willing to spend away from my family. They were not willing to hire me because I wasn't qualified enough. I didn't have a bachelor's degree. And so for us, we wanted to find some place to go that I could go back to school. Boise State met that need for me, and to go into their art program, which the brand new building at Boise State, the Center for Visual Arts, is really beautiful and amazing. I feel very honored to have been a part of, you know, that inaugural semester, now several semesters, but part of the sculpture program there, and it's really brought some purpose for me that I didn't have. I mean, I know raising your kids is super important, that's a job in and of itself, but there was nothing for me there. That was, you know, for my kids and for my family. And I struggled being a mom, and that it is an important job. I understand that, but I needed more.
You just hit on something I think is extremely important, where everyone's like, oh, like, how do we struggle with purpose, even though we're all parents, right?
Yeah.
Like, I 100% agree. Like, all of our, as parents, like, our purpose is our children, but that's a fully sacrificial transaction.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, no matter how much they love you back, and they do, you know, but that is for them, and that is our responsibility as parents.
Yeah.
But there's a whole other void out there of purpose that can be missing, and it's not filled by that parental or familial relationship.
Yeah. There has to be something for you too.
Yeah.
There has to be something else besides raising your kids that you can kind of give of yourself to, and feel like by giving you're getting back.
Right.
And for me, that was art, and I've loved it, and I've been successful at it, I think. And I just won the Alexa Rose Foundation, a local nonprofit here.
Humble brag. No, I'm kidding. It's awesome.
But they're an amazing organization that gives grants to local artists for whatever needs that they have at the time. And I was so fortunate to get a grant this year from the Alexa Rose Foundation to purchase some of the basic stuff that I needed.
That's awesome.
To start my own studio. I got to buy a MIG welder and a chop saw, which we haven't purchased yet because we're still trying to finish up the reno.
Give her the space to
I was thinking like canvas and oils, but you're talking about
No.
MIG and TIG welding.
No,
and
we started out with our kids in a lot of trouble at school because all their friends would be like, your mom wears combat boots. Now she wears a welding shield and leathers too.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah. So unfortunately, though, I create all these big metal pieces that live in our front yard now.
They're awesome, by the way.
Thank you. But I'm sure our neighbors are like, oh, she's not the crazy cat.
Crazy artist.
She's the crazy metal lady.
I think one of the things, to your point, though, of what's helping us with transition, it's amazing because we're talking about being parents. The number of things that kids hear and don't learn or hear and learn way later. My dad told me, I can't remember how many times my dad told me, he was a certified financial planner, worked with small businesses. So I got to see firsthand a lot of small businesses, family-owned businesses be successful or not be successful and why. But I had come out of Detroit, which was a lot of family members in unions, and you saw people just buckle down and 40 years, and all their whole goal was to just be on the line every day and then get their retirement. Obviously, my dad had a different vision and took us in a different way. But what we kept seeing is that you have your eyes open and up enough to see a opportunity when it comes, to have put yourself in a position to be able to take advantage of it. Because oftentimes, the greatest opportunity, and I just don't have the money or the time or whatever to do that. And then I say to have the stones or the courage to do it. And you see tons of people who have been very successful that if you look back, they triple mortgaged their house and they tapped into their kids' college fund or whatever. And we came here, and it's a little bit different. We're at the end. I've retired. But everybody that I know that took those jobs, that they said, this is what you're supposed to do, and you get this
become a
white
GS
collar,
employee.
right? A GS employee, and you'll get that second
easy button,
second retirement when you're 60, and you're like, doing it this way gives us constant opportunities to say, I can make time for Mission 43, and I can make time for my workout, and staying fit is hugely important.
I was going to say, like, you're a Derek White, a disciple, so am I, big fan, and like his emphasis on physical fitness and how that helps in mental and physical recovery, whether it's from an injury or transition or whatever. And I know that's a huge thing. Like,
absolutely.
You guys are fixtures at like Idaho Movement Academy, where like
absolutely.
the guru
Albert
over
is
there,
amazing. Yeah,
Albert Lou is getting it, and there's a reason why a lot of these adaptive athletes and veterans are congregating at places like this.
Now, Albert's a coach, not a trainer. It's important. And it's a holistic, overarching effort to make us all better people.
Well, there's so many people, dude, that not even just after being, you served 24 years, 23 years?
24 years.
So 24 years in the military, like a lot of people that serve 4 years, you hear them come out and like, and myself included, like, hey, now I don't have to get up at 5 a.m. and PT.
But we still do.
I can't stop.
But you guys, you guys as a couple, and I think like it's going to, showing them being your children, like the habits of like the importance of physical fitness, that has ripple effects, it's
not
a positive
to mention
deal.
I have 2 daughters, one's 15, and these boys are starting to show up at my house.
Yeah, it's true.
So I'm going to try to be as fit as possible.
By fit,
nice
he
to
means
meet
scary.
you, young man.
Well, we are incredibly grateful. Dan and I talk about a lot, just getting to interact with people like you makes this job extremely fulfilling, but we are incredibly grateful that you're involved actively and really inspire us on a daily basis. So,
and vice versa.
Can't thank you enough.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are an inspiration to me personally, and how you have transitioned successfully, and you fully committed to transitioning to retirement instead of hitting the easy button.
And being happy in
Yeah.
retirement. I think that's kind of a big part of that. Is I think far too few people, come out in retirement and
Yep.
they're not really happy. And it's just about finding those things that make your life meaningful as you move down that path, that, finding meaning in other things like Mission 43 and the Challenged Athletes Foundation, and, getting yourself out there and just being a part of it, giving of yourself and just showing up. And so that you see, you start to form relationships with people. And I think connection is so important. And I know a lot of my artwork is kind of focused on connection, and making those connections with people is important for yourself as well as your community.
Yeah.
And it makes things better.
That's so cool. Your commitment as a couple, as a family, to happiness and trying to attain that, that's contagious. I feel it every time we talk to you guys. And, Idaho's very lucky to have you. Mission 43's very lucky to have you. And just thanks for sharing with everybody listening. We encourage everyone to listen, to make sure you hit up Davin and Gia. You can find them at any of our Mission 43 events. So mission43.org/events. Hit up our website, mission43.org. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then you can see all the things that we have going on a constant basis that Davin and Gia are almost inevitably a part of.
Thank you so much for having us,
Thanks a
guys.
lot.
It was super fun.
All right. Until
Thanks.
next time. We'll see you at the next event.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for the Mission 43 podcast. Our purpose is to provide you opportunities to lead, learn, and inspire throughout your Idaho communities.
We want to hear what you thought. Like, subscribe, or leave a comment below.